Eastern Christian student and faculty. My name is Kenya Thomas and I am a junior. Today I will be sharing a moment in life where I didn't know exactly who I was or just my identity. I didn't know my purpose. It started in my freshman year, entering a new school, not only a new school, a different environment, a different community. I didn't really know how to carry myself. I didn't know how to make new friends. I didn't know how my work needed to be done, and I was just trying to go with the flow, just trying to get it out the way. I had an IEP, and basically I would go to tutoring. I would skip classes just to go to tutoring, just to help get me on the right reading level. I took it away my 8th grade year, thinking that I didn't need, because I didn't want to go into high school with it, because I was afraid that I would get judged for not being able to read or just have hard understanding, not being able to comprehend teachers. I just felt like I had to go in with a mask. I wasn't able to be who I was. So after that, a couple of weeks, 4 weeks into humanities, I decided to drop out because I was failing. I had like F's and D's, and I never had an F before. So like that really took a hit on me. I wasn't able to achieve anything. Like I was just useless. I didn't have a purpose, and I just felt like I was just letting everybody down. So after that, I just kept giving myself negative thoughts about how I was living, that, oh, if you weren't able to do this, you don't have a purpose. I know there's some kids like me that it's very hard to explain what they're feeling because they're afraid of people judging them, and that was me. And everybody was like cutting, and I tried committing suicide twice, and then but every time I would attempt to, there will always be this reminder that you have siblings and that they're looking up to you and that they're following your footsteps. I was just constantly reminded, like constantly. My baby sister Victoria, if you guys don't know, she's like my twin. She just follows, like she really looks up to me. Like everything I do, my hair, she wants her hair done. My makeup, she wants me to do her makeup. Her nails, it's just everything that I do, she wants. And I see that she really looks up to me, and I always thought that, what would she do if I left? So I felt like that was just a sign from God. Like God put them in my life just to show me that I do have a purpose and I have a meaning, and they are the reason why I am here. They're the reason why that I need to just do better and just believe in myself, because honestly anybody could do anything if they put their mind to. So I just started just reading more, just started writing my thoughts down every day and just trying to express myself, because the more I held things in, the worse things would get. So I was the type that needed to let things out. One time I was in chapel and it went overtime. Like kids were able to just stay there and just pray, and Miss Johnson came over and she laid her hands on my forehead and she started praying for me, and I started crying. And I didn't really know why I was crying, but I figured out later on why I was crying is because like I was really touched by her words, and that I saw that she really believed in God. Not saying that I never did believe in God, I was just always had questions, and till this day I still have questions, but still I felt that I needed to pray more, and that the more I pray, the more my bond would get closer towards him, and that, well, everything would just be better, because once I started communicating to him, he would start moving more, and I'll be able to see it, because I'll be more open-minded to other people's opinions and people that he were putting in my life to show that I have a purpose, and that just keep God in your prayer. Just keep praying to God, and he will show you more open doors. He'll give you more opportunities in life and show you, like, although you may think you have one purpose, he put us on this earth for more than one purpose. He put us on this earth to show who we are, and we're not just one thing. Everybody has their own personality, everybody has their own way of doing things, and creating things, and that's what he put us on this earth for, and he wants us to share it with the world.
Hello, I'm Mrs. Visser, and I'm the Student Assistance Counselor here at the high school. And I just wanted to thank Kenya for what she shared, and she really took a risk sharing that with you guys, so please honor, what she shared. But I also wanted to say to you that if what she shared brought up something for you, or stirred up some feelings for you, that we want you to know that we're here for you. You are welcome, more than welcome, to come talk with me, or if there's another adult at school that you feel comfortable with. But if you're struggling with any of those thoughts, any suicidal thoughts, or if there's somebody that you know that's struggling with that, please come and talk with one of us. We are also going to put a couple of phone numbers on the screen for you that you can call or text 24 hours a day if you're struggling with suicidal stuff. And please don't go through this alone. Reach out to somebody. There is help that's available, and we want to do our best to support you. Thank you. One more thing, just so you know where to find me. I'm in a new office space this year. I'm located 2 doors down from the nurse this year in room number 203.
Good morning, Eastern Christian family. Today I have the opportunity of introducing our speaker to you. She grew up 1 door away from me. We both went to the same college. We both took a class together once. I had the opportunity to take one of her first classes that she was ever teaching at Nyack College. She is married to my best friend in the entire world, David Schumann, and she is the mother to my niece and nephew, Aria and Ezekiel Schumann. She is currently pursuing her doctorate of ministry at Alliance Theological Seminary. She is also the professor of youth and family studies at Nyack College, and she is one of the pastors at the River of the Christian Missionary Alliance. So, without further ado, please give my sister, Pastor Anna Schumann, a very warm welcome.
Good morning, EC. As I'm sure you just heard, my name is Anna Schumann. I'm the associate pastor at the River Church of the Christian and Missionary Alliance up in Pearl River, New York, and I'm also the department coordinator of youth and family studies over at Nyack College in Battery Park. I'm also Mr. Bailey's big sister, so be nice to him, okay? I really like him. But in addition to all of these roles and titles that I get to carry, I'm also the wife to a wonderful redheaded man named David, and I'm the mom of 2 tiny children, Zeke and Aria, who are 4 and 2 years old. So since they're 4 and 2, I still get to stay on top of all of the latest kids movies, and I hope you have too, because today I need to know that you know who this guy is. If you haven't seen Toy Story 4, this is Forky. And Forky is a spork made out, or that is turned into a toy by the tiny Bonnie, who is starting her first day of school, and she's so nervous, so she reaches into the trash can and makes this art project, and it becomes her beloved toy. But due to the passion and the purpose behind her creation, Forky ends up coming to life, just like Buzz and Woody and the rest of the Toy Story gang. And it's interesting to me because out of bits of trash, she made this whole toy, and so this toy continues to act as though he's trash. And Woody spends most of the movie trying to fish Forky out of trash cans because he's trying to throw himself away. And Forky's running around going, "But I'm trash," and just doesn't understand the value that he has to Bonnie, so he keeps trying to leave. Forky, in the whole course of the movie, ends up doing some pretty crazy stuff because he doesn't understand his value as Bonnie's toy. And friends, without a cheesy segue, sometimes we do some pretty crazy stuff because we don't know our value either. So in the spirit of Forky and all things art and creative, today you need a piece of paper and something to draw with. So take that piece of paper and fold it into 4 squares and label them 1, 2, 3, and 4. It doesn't matter which square gets what number. But in that first square, I want you to kind of answer this question. Because Forky didn't know his value, he did a lot of crazy stuff, like hijacking an RV, throwing himself in trash, giving himself to a ventriloquist dummy because he offered to carry him somewhere. And we do a lot of crazy things too when we don't know our value. So it's so important to be rooted in your identity as a child of God. So in square one, I want you to answer this question. Who does God say that you are? You can answer this by drawing, you can answer this by writing, you can answer this with hand lettering, or even just scribbles on a page. But I want you to take 3 to 5 minutes and answer it. Teachers, if you could pause the video and come back in 3 to 5 minutes when everyone has had time to complete the drawing prompt, you can then push play and we'll continue on in our Devo. Take some time. Like I said before, we do some crazy things when we don't know our value. But the thing about rooting ourselves in God's word and who he says we are is that it allows us to know our worth, but it also invites us to fight for the value of others. You guys have been studying Micah chapter 6 lately, specifically in verse 8. But whenever I read the Bible and I'm studying one verse, I can't just look at that one verse. I have to look at the whole chapter, the passages, and the entire book, and sometimes even collections of books around it. I need to know how it fits in and how it relates to everything else that's going on. And when I did that with Micah, I found a few interesting things that I want to draw your attention to. See, everything in Micah chapter 6 is telling us the story of God's redemption and faithfulness to Israel. He tells them about how he led them out of Egypt, how he gave them leaders like Moses, Aaron, and Miriam. And he talks about how he led them through their times of wandering and how he was always and consistently faithful to draw near to them. And as he's telling this story, the prophet Micah is hit with the weight of his faithfulness to Israel. And he says, God, what can we actually give? How do we honor this? How do we repay this? How do we give you enough so that we have earned the right to have this gift? And he starts going through a list of things. He says, do I give you a year-old calf? Which is significant in Jewish culture because a year-old calf was offered on a holiday to atone for the sins of the entire past year. It made you completely renewed and redeemed. It made you completely new. But he says that's not enough. He goes, okay, what if I offer you 1,000 rams as a burnt offering sacrifice? And we know in Jewish culture that animal sacrifice and burnt offerings were how they atoned for daily sins, in addition to rituals and cleansings and everything like that. And it still didn't feel like enough. So Micah ups the ante again. He says, God, how do we pay you back for your faithfulness? Would 10,000 rivers of flowing oil work? Which is just this picture of luxury and abundance and honor and prestige. And it still doesn't quite satisfy the gift that Israel had been given. So Micah says, God, should I give you my firstborn son? And the important thing to know about Micah chapter 6 is right before it, it's talking about a king that is coming to Bethlehem. Sounds a lot like Jesus, doesn't it? And he points to Jesus again here by saying, God, I'm so grateful for your gift. Should I give you my firstborn son? It's pointing us forward to everything that Jesus was. And God basically says, like, no. This gift, my faithfulness, I'm going to give you my firstborn son. And you will be changed forever because of him. See, that was the kind of worth God had over his children. That's the kind of value he saw in them. Even though they were faithless, he was faithful. Time and time again, everything he did was for their good. Everything he did was to show them the righteous acts of God. It says that exactly in Micah chapter 6, word for word. Everything he did was so that Israel would know the righteous acts of God. Everything he did was for their good. Everything he did was for their redemption. And when you think about the word redemption, what does it mean? It means to give value to. God gave us his son. When we felt so grateful for the gift of his faithfulness and offered our firstborn son, God said, no, let me give you mine. That's the amount of value he says over you as a child of God. So I want you to look back at square one, where you started to write down some things that God says you are. Do you need to change anything? And then I want you to look to square two, and I want you to answer this. How did Jesus change you? Take some time. Teachers, if you could pause the video again and give your students 3 to 5 minutes. Answer this prompt. more so than what the verse is saying, because I'm sure you've heard it a lot by this point, where he says, he has shown you, O man, what is good. What did we just say was good? God's faithfulness to redeem Israel, God's faithfulness to restore, to show how everything was working for their good. That was what he has shown them to be good, his faithfulness. And what does the Lord require of you? Remember, Micah had just offered gift after gift after gift, trying to find something that would satisfy or even the playing field a little bit so that he was worthy of the gift. And we know that God's answer is, you are worthy. So what does the Lord require of us? But to seek justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God. But it's very important to pay attention to how this verse is structured. Because of how it's put together, we can actually read it like this. But to seek justice with your God, to love mercy with your God, and to walk humbly with your God. And it seems like where he's drawing our attention is to this idea that we are called to be with our God. So what does that actually mean for us? It means that we have to live a life surrendered. But in order to live a life surrendered, we have to actually know how Jesus has changed us. Because if in that last prompt you looked at that answer and you couldn't think of a way that Jesus changed you, I have to ask, what do you believe Jesus did for you? Do you believe Jesus saved you? In order to say, yes, I believe Jesus saved me, you need to know what you were saved from. Because you can't surrender your life over to someone who has surrendered their life for you if you don't own what you are surrendering. If you don't know what you were saved from, you cannot say, Jesus, I give it to you. You can't surrender something that is not yours. So you need to own who you were so that you know what Jesus did for you and you understand the magnitude of the gift that you have been given. He came so that you might know him, and he died so that you might choose him, and he lives so that you might be loved by him. Jesus gave you this gift, and when he came, his name was called Emmanuel, God with us, and that's not an accident. The greatest gift that we've been given is his presence, and the only thing he asks for in exchange of this gift is that we live with our God. See, everything in the Bible from garden to garden has been about God creating man for relationship, man walking away, God bringing man back into relationship, and our relationships being fully restored. It's always been about our relationship and our presence with him. So will you surrender your life over to him? That might mean you need to put down some things that you've put into place to protect yourself. Because it's hard to lay down your life. It's hard to say, you know what, I fully trust you. It is hard to take that big step of faith and say, whatever your will is here, God, I give you my yes. And I will do it and I will go. See, we're taught, we live in a culture that teaches us to protect ourselves, to keep ourselves safe, to keep things in order, to know where you're going, what you're doing, and how you're going to get there. We teach you to be so self-reliant, and at the same time, and sometimes in the same breath, we ask you to live surrendered. And it's inconsistent. So I want you to look back at square one, where I asked you to discuss who God says you are. And I want you to look back at square two, where you started to draw out how Jesus changed you. If anything needs to be added or removed, take that time and do it. But in square three, I want you to answer this question. What would it be like if the world saw you the same way that Jesus sees you? Take some time now to answer that. See, where your initial story with God has been to give you value, where He redeemed you and called you His, the second part of your story is His invitation to give value to others. And that's what we see here in Micah chapter 6, verse 8. It's this idea of humility where we find the power and the passion that drives us to fight for the same life change we've experienced to be found in others. You see, humility is what allows us to know our worth fully and to fight for the value of others and understand that it doesn't impact our importance. See, humility a lot of times gets this bad rap, and it's not for any reason other than simple miscommunication. See, in English, humility actually means having a low view of your own importance. But everything in Scripture tells us time and time again of God's view of us being important to Him. So those two definitions don't go together. You can't live with a low view of your importance when you're the child of a God who sent His Son to die for you. You are important. See, when we look at a biblical view of humility, what you have to understand is that you are called to live in the full knowledge of who God says you are. But you are also called to fight for people to discover their value in God's eyes because of how you live. See, we're called to seek justice because value has been stolen from people. And as children of God, we look at the world and we see them with our God. When we walk, we seek justice with our God. So we look at the people and we see them as our Father sees them. We're called to love mercy so that people might encounter the love of the Father when they encounter us. Could you imagine if you were in conflict with someone and you went up to them and instead of them lashing out back at you, they met you with the love of the Father instead? How would that change you? We are called to walk humbly with our God, with the knowledge of who we are, so that others might come to know their value. So when we're asked to walk humbly with our God, the question is, will you fight to give value to others, even if it comes at a cost to you? Because here's the secret about the kingdom. When you give away things of the kingdom, you're not left with less. They just multiply. So you have one prompt left to go in square 4. And I want you to take some time to fill it out. before you share it with your class. And the question is simply this: how can you give value to others? Take some time. Humility allows us to know our worth, and it gives us the passion to fight for the value of others, even when it comes at a cost to us, even when it means we lay down our rights so that others might encounter the love of the Father, even when it means that we have to step outside of our comfort zones. Walking humbly with our God is the closest we get to participate in his redemption story. See, when God called us to partner with him, he was calling us to partner in the redemption of the world, which means we're giving the value of our Father back to the world as it was originally intended. So to walk humbly is to know your importance and to give value to those that you encounter. So EC, I thank you for going on this intense art trip with me today, but I'm going to ask, would you be willing to take it one step further? Today, would you be willing to tape your art to your shirt and walk around your school for the rest of the day like this? But what's important is I don't want you to be looking down and seeing what other people see. I want you to look up and see the art of the people around you. You'll see how Jesus has changed someone. You'll see who they know themselves to be in Christ. And you'll see that when you start to talk to people with the value that God has given them, you'll see just how different this all could be. Let me pray for you guys. Jesus, we thank you so much for everything you've done for us, for the fact that you came so that we might know you, the fact that you died so that we could choose you, and the fact that you live so that we might be changed. God, it's a gift that's so great, we can't even understand it sometimes. But we thank you for the ways you've taught us to break down your word. We thank you for the tools you've given us to know you deeper. So God, would you help us walk in this second part of your invitation? And would you give us the courage to fight for the value of the people around us to be seen? We love you so much, and it's in your Son's name that we get to come before you. Amen.